All right. So in the last 3 sessions, we talk about value. Right? Value to customers. That's their preference. Right? And also the value we can harvest from customers. That's the price we charge, customer lifetime value. This concept will help us understand how much is a thing, product or service worth to customers, and how much is our customer worth to us. Right. We have already talked about the concept of segment, and realized now customers are different. So we are going to talk about the customer segmentation this week. And in the next 2 sessions, we are going to talk about other marketing strategies, using quantitative tools to improve our marketing strategies. Before today's session, just two things. One is team project discussion. I know you have prepared your research plan, and your tutor will give you some feedback. You can also get some feedback from your fellow students and learn from other teams. So we are going to do that this week in the tutorial. And I also summarize a few questions we often meet for this team project, and I'm going to talk about that in the next lecture. I have already uploaded the slides over there. Now you may also take a look in advance. The next lecture will be in week 7, because week 6 is a flexibility week, and we don't have lectures and tutorials in the flexibility week. So after we come back from the flexibility week, in week 7, we are going to do that. Another thing in week 7 is quiz 2. In quiz 2, it will cover the contents taught from week 4 to week 7. All the required contents, exclude the optional contents. The format is the same. All quizzes and exam, they're same. There are multiple choice questions. And in quiz 2, we are going to have 11 multiple choice questions. You will have 40 minutes to complete that, and it is worth 15% of the course score. The quiz is similar to the quiz in week 4, the quiz 1 score is available on Moodle since last Saturday. I hope you have already took a look. On average, we are doing pretty well. So keep on the good work. Let's keep on learning marketing analytics. So the instructions again is there, and when it's on the quiz day, you can access that quiz on Moodle under the assessment section. Okay, today's topic: customer heterogeneity and segmentation. We segment customer because customers are different, and heterogeneity is this big word for difference. So we all know customers are different. And in order to serve them well, we need to know how they are different, and maybe serve them differently to meet their personal needs. And market segmentation, it is the subdivision of an entire market to realize that difference. So to distinct the subset of consumers, where within the group, the segment, consumers are similar, but across the segment, they are different. So that is the key of segmentation. Members of segment are different between segments, but similar within. So they are different in different segments, so we can serve them differently. We understand how their preferences are different, but within segment they need to be similar, so that the strategy we apply to one segment can fairly help serve everyone in this segment well. So that is the key of segmentation. So this is an example, right? Some fun fact. So this website did some interesting research, right, among Mac users and PC users. It's about 10 years ago, but I think it's still interesting. So basically, surveyed Mac users and PC users about their demographics, personality, fashion, taste, aesthetics, food, drink choices, etc. All these things, and they find that there's a fairly big difference between Mac users and PC users. Right? So they found that Mac users are bolder and more creative. Right? So all know other people may say it's elitist or more pretentious, right? But it's the same thing. Look at from different angles. Right? And about 2/3 of Mac users had a college or advanced degree, compared to 54% of PC users. Mac loyalists are 80% more likely than PC users to be vegetarians. Right? That seems interesting. And based on my personal observation, it seems to make sense to me. And they're more likely to ride a Vespa scooter than Harley motorbike. So give that sense. This is Vespa scooter, and this is Harley motorbike. And look very different. Right? And PC users taste tend towards casual clothes, tuna fish sandwich. That makes the most sense to me because I am a PC user. I like tuna sandwich, and I also prefer to wear casual clothes. Make a lot of sense to me. Like white wine, a strong appetite for mathematical concept. Well, that works for me as well. Hollywood movie and Pepsi. Well, Mac users are more likely to prefer designer or retro styles. Hummus. Hummus is a Mediterranean course where they have some dip inside. They prefer red wine or indie movies. So there seems to, by classifying people based on the computer they prefer, you can see fair difference over here, right? And the question here is now, as a marketer, as a normal reader, it's enough, right? You find some interesting fact, that's great, and it's good to talk about now to your friends. But as a marketer, you need to think, what can I do with it? Right? What can I do with it? Based on this difference, right? What can I do in terms of marketing my product? Right? For example, if you're a PC user, if you're a PC manufacturer, or if you work for Apple, right? So now you know more about your users. How are you going to design your product, promote your product, deliver your product to them, right? Based on how your customer, right, are different from the other computer users. Right? So this is a picture I took from this Coca-Cola World in Atlanta, United States. So I was having a conference over there. So I went there. I like this quite a lot because now they offer all the product they sell, Coca-Cola sell around the world. And each pillar here over here, you can see now this is North America. That's a product they sell on the North America market. This pillar is Europe. Now that one is Africa. The green one is Africa. Right. So basically all the continent, everywhere around the world. And I find large difference across the product they serve to the different parts of the world. I'm from Asia, right? So I took a picture of one machine over here from Asia. It has, sorry, the picture I took was not of great quality, but you can vaguely see this. So this is from Japan, Thailand. Sorry, this I don't see clearly. Here's India. This is China. So you will see the product, there's a lot of variety over here. And the taste of product is of actually great distance, although they are all from Asia. I tried these, all of them. I tried all of them. The first one from Japan, I remember very clearly. It indeed tastes a lot like a carrot and a mushroom over here. I personally don't like it, and I based on my understanding of the people around me in China, I don't think they will prefer that kind of taste as well. However, no, that does not matter, right? It doesn't matter whether Songting or the people around you, they like it or not, because this is not for this market, right? People's taste in China and Japan now, in this case, apparently they are different, right? So we, for the product we sell in Japan, we only need to care about the people's taste over there, right? And for the product sold in China, we only need to care about the people's taste in that particular segment, right? So this is the concept of segmenting customer and serve them differently, and also the beauty of serving them differently. So you don't need to make sure that one product serves everyone. You need to you have to benefit the taste from different people. You don't need to do that, because you can design different products. So each segment you can serve them with a different product. Right? And another drink here impressed me a lot is this from India. To me, I did taste curry from that drink, and it was a little bit. So I only tried it once. I was not sure. After I showed this picture to my students, I asked many people from India, quite a few, not a lot. I think 9 out of 10 agree that it does taste a little bit curry in there, but all from India, And 1 out of 10 would say no. I didn't taste the curry from there. Right? So that's interesting. And I think one explanation may be 10% of people from India. They do curry every day, so they do not identify that small flavor of curry from there. Now, of course, it's also possible that my taste was wrong. But I indeed see a lot of difference over here. I think if you got a chance, you can also go to the World of Coca-Cola in Atlanta to try it yourself. It was a very fun experience. So this decision procedure, right? If you have take any marketing courses, you will know that this STP is core of marketing strategy. Right? It is actually a decision procedure. Right? So you first need to segment, find a different customer, and find out how different they are. Then you design product for each of them. Right? They all belong to this segmentation step. Then you need to make sure that your product, the product you want your customer to have in their mind, is the same as what they actually picture you. Right? So if that two image match, that means the brand, the product you want to market are indeed in your. Oh, sorry, I skipped the targeting. Let me say this again, excuse me. So first, you need to segment a customer. That is segmentation, find out how different they are. Then you need to find a segment that you can target profitably. You can reach profitably. And then you make sure in the market, in the segment you choose, the product impression you want to give your customer are the same as what they actually think about. That's called positioning. So you can see, you first divide people, then select a segment, then make sure you do well in that segment. That's how you make sure your marketing strategy works, STP. And in this entire procedure, the first step, and perhaps one very critical, most critical step is segment. To segment well, so you can do your follow-up marketing strategies better. And segmentation relates to a lot of marketing decisions. So some are short-term ones. So for different segment, you may have different sales force planning, you have different channel assignment, different communication strategies, or pricing strategies could be different as well. And for different segments, you can have different competitors as well, right? So that's more like a short-term impact. But in the long term, you will, if you understand the customer's difference very, very well, you will find for different segments, there may be some emergent needs, right? There may be some other new needs, or your existing segment may have evolving needs or growth. Now, when they, for example, a youth segment, when they grow up, their needs could change, right? So such kind of thing also you can find if you have a clear definition of the segments. Another thing is competition, right? So in the short term, you will find your direct competitors. But if you use segmentation, you can perhaps now understand indirect or not in kind of competition over here. So one example might be if you run, for example, bus transportation across states. Right? So for example, Sydney to Canberra, you are Murray's, you're Murray's coach. And so your direct competitor will be other bus transportation, such as Greyhound. Right? But if you segment your customers carefully, now you will find if a segment of customer, if they are very sensitive in terms of the speed, and at the same time their income might be higher, and then for this group of segment, you may find airlines could be your competitors, right? So they may choose between coach and airlines, right? If they're not sensitive or lower income, that is airline is out of the picture. So your competitor will be Greyhound. But if you are in this segment, your potential competitors could be other airlines, right? So understanding your segment will help you identify your competitors, not only directly, but also indirectly competitors as well. There's multiple ways to segment. Right? Some very often see not recommended way. For example, our customer is a male customer or female customer, young customer or elder customer. You will see that is done a lot in our daily life, right? And in some cases, it could still work well. Right? For example, if you produce clothes for men, right? So then male customer is your customer, no problem with that. Right? But you can do better, right? Among male customers, there are a lot of male customers. You can use better technique to further clarify the segment that you want to target and serve. Right? So the way we recommend is a needs-based segmentation. Right? So we segment people, differentiate people based on their heterogeneous preference, based on what kind of different needs they have for products or services. And those variables that represents customers' different needs is called the base variables. Those are bases who can represent people's needs, preference, or how they make decisions. They're called base variables. Another group of variable is descriptors. Right? Here you may find things like gender, right? Age, income, education, and gender. All these variables we typically hear for segmentation. They can be mainly classified as descriptors because those variables can be used to find now who your segment is, right? Who are the people in your segment? Find them and reach them in the segment. Right? So these variables do not directly represent their needs, but can be used to help you find and reach these segments. Right? They are called descriptors. And think about our typical approach. For example, we classify the entire market by people's gender, by people's age, for example. We are making some assumption here. Right? We are making assumption. We don't ignore these base variables, only use the descriptors to segment the customer. We are making this assumption that male customers are different from female customer. At the same time, all people within the male segment, they're similar. All people within the female segment, they are also similar, right? So you can see there, just using descriptors to segment the customer may have potential problems, right? Because they do not necessarily differentiate the people's different needs. And within a segment, for example, a male segment, people can be different. Right? So these two sets of variables. In this course, we are going to use both sets of variables. We are going to use base variables to find out how different their needs are. And we are going to use descriptors to find out who the customers are in the segment and how to reach them. Right? This is our recommended approach. Example, right? So this is carpet fibers. Right? So we say simplify this problem. Right? Say we have 2 dimensions of carpet fiber. One is strength, how strong the fiber are. Right? One is water resistance. Right? So among these 2 dimensions, for example, we do a survey or a study. Now, each spot is a customer's needs. Right? For example, this spot. Right? This spot means I need a water resistance over here. Right? At the same time, I want the fiber strength is over here. Right? You can see for this people or organization, the potential buyer, right? For this potential buyer, both water resistance and the strength, their requirement is high. Right? On contrary, for this person, let's say, both water resistance and strength requirement is low. So if we have customers like here, we can fairly easily differentiate their needs into 4 segments, A, B, C, D. Right? A, B, C, D. So you can see that segment A, these are customers who care about the strength a lot. At the same time, the water resistance is not so much important for them. For segment B, both requirements are not very high. Segment C, the strength requirement is low, but the water resistance requirement is high. Right? And for segment D, both requirement is very high. Right? So here you can see we classify people based on their difference in needs. Right? needs two dimensions, right? So here the base variables are strength and water resistance. Using these two variables, we can classify people. Then we can take a look. Who are these people in each segment, right? So we can take a look over here. We find that typical members from each segment. A, the schools. Right? So this is appearing to be a B2B example. Right? So your buyer business owners. So A is school. Right? And when you look at this, it starts to make sense why they need the strength, right? Because there's a lot of people walking around, right? But they don't necessarily do outdoor, right? We know many schools don't go outdoors, so but kids running around every day, right? So it needs to be strong, but not so much on water resistance. For light commercial, they are mainly in segment B. Right? For light commercial, both are not the primary concern. Right? But for indoor-outdoor carpeting, indoor-outdoor can be used both ways. Apparently, it can need to be outdoors, then water resistance is our primary concern. But strength, not a lot of people run over there. Right? But health club, there's many people come and go. At the same time, there's a lot of fluid going on, right? So water resistance is a key concern as well. Right? So now we know who they are in each segment. And by these variables, in this case, the type of industry, right? You get an idea as how you can reach your customers, right? For example, if your potential customer schools, then you should go to send your salesperson to schools, right? It's pretty straightforward. So you can see here for business market, typically variables used as descriptors can be now industries we just use, right? Size, different size of business, usually their needs could be different. Location, where they are, sometimes organization structure as well. For consumer market, we typically use descriptors such as their demographic variables, such as age, income, gender is missing here, but it should be here. Right? Gender, education, their profession. Now sometimes we want to know their lifestyle, like the Mac versus PC example I gave you. Right? Many of them is about their lifestyle, their taste. Right? Sometimes we also care about their media habits. Right? If they, for example, Mac users, they are very interested in reading some sort of magazine. If you want to promote your Mac product, well, that's a good idea to do some advertisement on that magazine they usually read, right? So these can help us find and reach our targeted segment. So the example I gave you is fairly simple. It's two dimension. It's a two-dimension problem because only two variables representing the needs. One is strength, one is the water resistance. But this is a very much simplified example. Most of the time, our product or service, their people's preference for them are multidimensional. All right. Way higher than two-dimensional. It cannot be easily studied using a 2D map like this. Right? We know that 2D is okay, 3D is start to get very complicated, right? And a 4D picture, very few people can understand that. Right? So we need a technique to help us extract from different product feature or service features, extract some key variables that can help us understand people's difference. We need an interdependence statistical technique to help us analyze those multiple dimension needs, right, to find out a few key needs, right, key needs. So we are going to introduce those techniques today. Right. We will first talk about the hierarchical class analysis, followed up with k-means cluster and this PAM, partitioning around the medials class analysis. We will do that using an example. Right. As always, I set up one business problem. We first analyze how we are going to help managers to break that managerial problem down into some research questions. Then how we are going to answer that research questions. Right? In the end, we are going to draw insights and help managers make decisions. Right? So this product, this product is 20 years ago. Right? At that time, it is considered as a new product. In 2001, people already have PDA. PDA is something like that, right? Personal digital assistant. That's called a PDA, right? And people already have a mobile phone, right? So this new product is, combines the features of both mobile phone and the PDA. Right? So I can help you do some work on this small digital device, at the same time give you the ability to connect to the mobile network, right? So it's nowadays it's quite easy for everyone of us to do it, right? But in 2001, it's a new concept, right? It actually people are very excited about this idea, right? At least who created this product were very excited, and they are thinking about that. So I have this great idea, and I can do this new product. Who should I sell this product to them? And I like this example because we know how things happen later, right? So this is how telecom product evolves. At the very beginning, we only have hotlines, right? Then one day, I think it's 1990s or something, my dad got this pager, right? He was very happy about that. And so at that time, it was very expensive, pager. So pager can only receive text message, right? So if I want to page my dad, I need to call using this hotline. I call a call center and tell them what message I want to send. Then they will type this message and send it to my dad, and my dad can receive it. Right. Then after a few years, we have this bulky cell phone, right? It is indeed bulky, like a brick, right? Heavy and large, a brick. But now we can do very complicated things with our smartphone, right? Smartphone. So this new product is right here. Right? It's between a simple cell phone and a smartphone. Right? So that was intermediate product. So manager's problem here is, to whom should we sell this new PDA, right? Managers created this product, I say, let's sell it, who? So in order to answer that question, we need to find information for a few research questions, right? I break it down into 3 research questions over here. So first, what segments exist in the market? Right? I first need to understand how different the customers are, and if I want to segment them, how can I group them? Right? And that then in each segment, what kind of products they like, their preference, right? And how different between among all these segments. That's some follow-up questions, right? But basically, what segments exist in the market? Then secondly, after we differentiate this segment, who are the consumers in each market, right? That is about identify the customers and be able to reach them, right? And after we understand both their needs and the descriptors, right, which one are we going to pick? So if I can answer all these three research questions, I can help managers with this managerial problem, right? And finally, the decision we are going to make is select a segment or segments. Maybe I want to serve multiple ones. That's totally possible. Right? And after that, we can allocate resources based on that. In order to answer this question, right, we did a survey. We did a study using survey technique. The data can be found here. The Excel file I put on Moodle. So we have 32 questions over here. Whenever you get a set of data, it's a good idea you thoroughly understand your data. Right? So what question was asked? Now, how are the options being coded? Right? They are all very important for your follow-up analysis. So this is the original form of the data. Right? So each row is a person's respondent. This is their ID. This is meaningless, just identify a unique person. Then each column is a question. Each column is a question. So the questions are over here. Now, first 15, they are base variables. Right? Keep in mind what base variables is. Right? So they are used to represent different needs. Find out how people like each of the product features. So, for example, how much innovation are wanted, right? How much they want to have new technology, right? So when there's a new technology, I'm on the first to adopt them, right? So this is represent people's desire for new product. This is a new technology, remember, right? And how people use message, cell phone, personal information management tools. Right? Because all these services can be provided with this new product, right? How often do you send and receive time-sensitive information? This is related to the use of the product. And remote access, remote access. How important is it for you to share your information rapidly? These 4 questions are about their information to send and receive, now to use the device. And you can see how they are coded, right? So the first innovator is 1 is strongly disagree, 7 is strongly agree. And these questions are from 1 is never, 7 is very often to do this. Right? For share information, it's about 1 not important at all, 7 is very important. Right? Then you have some other devices, device features such as monitor, email, website access, web access, multimedia, and ergonomic, how important they are. They are about the product features. And you need to, if you read it closer, you will find the ergonomic question here. It's not exactly what we think about ergonomic. Nowadays, when we talk about ergonomic, it's perhaps how it fits in your hand and things like that. Right? But in 2001, when you think about this very bulky cell phone, right? So ergonomic here just means not bulky, it's small. So you need to understand the background over here. And lastly, willing to pay. How much they would like to pay for a monthly subscription, right? How for the services, for services, and the price they want to pay for this device. This is a one-off price, and these 2 variables are they are measured by dollar value. You can take a look over here. These are all dollars. And then if you do a quick descriptive analysis, you can calculate the mean, right? Mean over here, and this is mean willing to pay for the price, for the device. So these are the base variables. Then we have 17 descriptors, help us to find out who they are, how to reach them. That include demographic variable, right? Age, education, income. Then their profession, profession, constructions, emergency, sales, service, professional, computer. You can find out what this industry is about. For example, emergency. What is that? They include fire, police, ambulance. Right? So you can start to think of in their job what kind of special requirement they may have for a device like this. Right? It will help you think that. So professional here is executive, lawyers, consultants. Right? So here's the professions. Then their usual the device they use. Right? So do you already have a PDA? Do you have a cell phone? Today I would say everyone will say yes, but at that time not exactly. Right? Also PC. Do you have PC or not? Right? Then their work behavior, right? So how often do you spend time away from the office? Right? That relates to their needs for accessing information. Right? So then last of 4 variables is their media consumption. So what kind of magazine they usually read. And you can imagine why we ask that, right? So if we know our segment usually reads some certain magazine, we can make advertisement on that, right? So it will help us reach this customer. All right, so with all these variables, we are going to do cluster analysis. Cluster analysis is a convenient method for us to categorize entities, individuals, objects, and so on. In this case, we are going to categorize individuals. So in marketing, clustering is used to partition the data such that the result and the groups are internally homogeneous, but externally heterogeneous. That's what we talk about. Our segment wants people to be similar within segments, at the same time different across segments, different so that the segments are clear. A simple example. Let's say there's 2 features over here. Right? It's price and quality. Importance of price, not the price itself, but importance of price. This is importance of quality. So if our result, the survey result, let's say, is like that, how many segments can we find over here, right? So it's very clear. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? This is a very clean picture. But if our survey result is like this, now it starts to look a little bit problematic, right? So how are we going to classify people? Even it's a 2D problem, a 2-dimensional problem, right? Still difficult. We can classify people in this way. Does that make sense? Looks like so, right? We can also classify people like this, or this. So which is best to segment? So statistical method can help us to find the best segmentation based on the error within the segment and across segments. Right? But at the same time, we need to think about the managerial meaning here. Which one will help us make make marketing decisions best? You can think about that. Is it this one? Well, what does this one mean? So the blue group, both the importance of price is high, and both the importance of price and the quality is high. It's like I want the best quality product. At the same time, I have to have the best price. Right? Those are very picky customers, right? And the red group, they seem to make the trade-off between price and quality. So they can either, when they say I'm focused on quality, I'm less sensitive on price. When I'm focused on price, I can trade off on quality. Does that make sense? That's like a normal customers, right? So this makes sense. But how is that, will that help us? Well, they're just a different, find out some customers on the market, and it makes sense, but I don't know how to use them, right? Now, this grouping start to make a little bit sense, right? So it's further differentiate the red group into two parts. The new red part, they're kind of like a high-end customer, right? They focus on quality, but not so much on price. Well, this black segment, they're more like these price-sensitive customers. Right? They focus on the price, but not so much on quality. Now it start to be useful for us, right? So we have very picky customers. I don't think we are interested in them, right? Then you can think whether we want to serve this quality focused segment or price sensitive segment. Right? This one, statistically, it's also possible to classify, but when you look at the into this managerially, now this red and black segments, they still make sense, but what does this mean? This blue segment does not make too much sense. Yes, they include both the most picky customer and the least picky customer. Basically, neither quality or the price bother them too much. That does not make a lot of sense. But mathematically, now they may still be within the same group. And using this example, I want to tell you one thing. That is, statistical software, they will make suggestions to us. All three could be possible, but we need to find out the classes based on managerial needs. When we conduct a class analysis, we will form the problem, we will select a distance to measure how different the customers are. We are using hierarchical cluster analysis to get an initial understanding of the clusters. Software may help us to find out how many clusters might be optimal, but after we try that clusters, we need to interpret and profile customer ourselves, based on which we can think of what kind of managerial decisions we can do on the market. Right? Then we decide whether this segmentation makes sense or not. If not, we need to adjust the number of clusters, go back here and rerun the analysis to find out the cluster result that works best for us, right? Not from statistical software. Distance. How do we define distance? There's multiple ways to do that. The simplest way might be this Euclidean distance. If it's 2D, it's very straightforward to understand. That is how much distance are 2 points on a map. Right? On a map, there's A and B. It has this coordinates x1, y1, x2, y2. So this distance, Euclidean distance, it is square root of the x, the difference between x1 and x2, right? Square plus the difference between y1 and y2 square. You add them up, then do a square root. So that's a difference between distance between A and B. For multiple dimension, remember we want to deal multiple dimensions, many dimensions, right? So if we have n dimensions and there's 2 points, right, P and Q, each point have a value, a coordinate, right, on each of the n dimension, P1, P2, Pn, right? And another observation, Q, another person, let's say, have a value Q1, Q2, Qn on that as well, on all n dimensions as well. Then the distance between P and Q can be defined, Euclidean distance, in this way. This is exactly what we see over here, right? Just more dimensions. Right? For each dimension, we look at the difference between Q and P, make a square, then add all this square difference together, then do a square root. Or we can simply write the distance like here. So a typical first step is to initial understanding of cluster is using this hierarchical class analysis. Right? So it's like here, we have 9 points. We want to classify them, right? We first find out 2 points that are closest to each other, right? So 2 and 9, let's say, they group together. Then we find the next 2 closest point and put them together, right? So I can visually show you the result over here. Suppose we have 9 points now, importance price and importance quality, right? And they are mapped over here, right? 9 points. Each point is an observation. So we first find the closest distance, right? So that is in the 2 and 9, right? These two are the closest distance, Euclidean distance, right? So we put them together. Right? Then next, say after that, which pair is the most closest? Right? Is the closest parts? That's 4 and 8, right? 4 and 8. Then after that, we found 1 and 7 very close. Right? Then after that, which two are closest? 3 and 6. Great. So if we stop here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups, right? If we keep on, we can find that the next closer group is the group of 2 and 9. After we put them together, we consider them as 1 point, right? 1 point. So this combined point with 5, they should be combined. If we stop here, we will end up with 4 segments, right? But if we keep on doing that, we can find these 2 parts are very close. We can put them together. We have 3 segments over here. We keep on doing that. Now there's these 2 segments, right? And finally they will merge as one population. That's how we got this called a dendrogram. It's 10. So how about we have a 5 minutes break? Then we will come back. I will show you how this class is done in R. All right, let's come back to work. So first, let me show you how to do this hierarchical class analysis in R. All right. So the code is actually pretty straightforward, and I write a lot of comments to tell you what each step is about. Right? So I'm sure you can get an idea over here. Right? So first we need to import the data. Now that data is also on Moodle. When you run R, you need to make sure that your script is in the same folder with your data file here. Otherwise, you need to tell R where it is. You need to specify path. Right? So if you don't specify path of the file, R will assume that they are in the same folder. Right? So you put them in there. Then this is to scale the data. Scale data. Why do we need to scale the data? So here's why. Scale here means standardization. Standardization. If you look at the data, you remember now different variables, they are measured in different ways. Most of them in this case is 1 to 7. 1 means not important at all, disagree, or something like that. 7 means fully agree or very important. 1 to 7. But there are some other variables measured differently. For example, price for the device. Right? Someone say 200, someone say 300. Right? So you can, using this example, if an innovator, so there's 2-person rating, right? One is 1 and the other 7. The difference here, when you calculate the Euclidean distance, right? 7 minus 1 squared is 36. The other variable price, the difference between 201 and 207 is also 36. So in terms of difference, the difference between 1 and 7 here is the same as the difference 201 and 207 here. Right? Mathematically, they are exactly the same. However, we know that managerially, these two have very different meanings. Right? Innovator, the difference between 1 and 7 is huge. Right? 1 is not important at all. 7 is very, very important. Right? But for price, hey, what's the difference between just $6 when we talk about $200, $300 device, right? So the difference between these two data points are very small, actually, right? So if we do not rescale the data, we will find that these two are exactly the same. At the end of the day, you will find that the variable with large numbers, they will dominate. They will dominate the difference and give you wrong result. Wrong result. All right. So if you do standardization, make sure all the x minus the mean or the average of the among all x's, then divide by standardization. After this standardization procedure, all the data you have for one variable have a mean 0, standard deviation 1. Right. So now all the variable becomes comparable. And you can remove the concerns over here. Right. So that's why we first do this scale. Right. And the variable selection here, we have 32 variables in all, right? From base variable to descriptors. And when we do class analysis, what variable should we select? Descriptors or base variables? It should be base variables, right? Because we segment based on customers' different needs. So we only select the base variables, the 15 base variables. And among this data set, if you click the data set over here, we will find now from the first one is ID, right? The second one is innovator, until the 16th is a price. After that, from the 17th, that is descriptors like age, education. So I only select the data from 2 to 16, right? And I double check. Right? Among all these variables, 1 to 33, I select the second one to the 16th one. That is base variables we are going to use. So after that, I will use, first I calculate the distance matrix. Right? Then you conduct the hierarchical class analysis. This is very straightforward. Just use this function called the H cluster. And I will use plot to draw the dendrogram after we get to the hierarchical cluster result. right? So this is a result we get. I have copied over here. Right? So each one over here, you can see the number overlap over here. Right? Each one over here is a person in our study. Right? And their response based on all 15 base variables, we calculate the distance among these participants. And we find out how different the participants are. Basically, this distance is a measure of how different the two people are, right? Then based on this distance, we can group them. In this case, now it looks like 4 segments emerge because here now so we find a lot of people similar group over here. There are also a group here, another group here. But after these 4 groups, if we want to further merge 2 groups together, for example, these 2 groups, right? If we want to further merge them together, the distance, that is what this height is about, right? If we want to merge these 2 groups, the different distance between these 2 groups is about 40. Right? Is about 40. But the distance within the first group, for example, they're around just 10, right? The maximum is around 10. So within this group, people are maximally different at a 10 level, but between these 2 groups, they're different. The difference is like 40. Right? So you see, if we stay with 4 groups, in each group, people are fairly similar. And across the groups, they are fairly different. That's what we want to achieve with segmentation, right? So in this case, it's fairly clear. 4 groups seem to exist. We see a big jump over here, right? Now the height, a big jump over here. Before the big jump, now everyone seems to be quite similar. The maximum distance is around 10, but after this big jump, now the minimum distance is about 40, right? So, and if we pull everyone together, the difference is between these 2 large groups is like a 90 something. Right? So it makes sense for us to initially think about 4 groups. Right? That seems to be the way to go. Right? And how to draw that? I use this code to draw. I tell this program I want to draw this plot by drawing some rectangles. And the number group is 4. This is how I draw this dendrogram. But this gives us an initial sense, right? Remember over here we get the initial sense, right? Now with the development of statistics, software can help us make some suggestions. Right? Sometimes the result is not as clean as this one. This is a class example, so it's usually pretty clean. But in reality, the problem is much more complicated. So many times we need software to help us decide how many classes will be good. So we can use this function to do that. Come back to R. In order to use this function, we will need to load 3 packages. They are over here. You don't, when you run them for the first time, it may take some time to install these packages. But after you install this package, this command, this NB cluster, number, maybe they want to say number best clusters. I'm not very sure. But it will try various different statistical methods. Each of them will have a suggestion of how many clusters will be good. Now here's the result. I say 2 among all of them. Now 2 proposes 0 is the best number cluster, which does not make sense. So you see all this, but they put the method there for some reason. These 2 methods does not work for this particular data set, but they may work well for other data sets. So we also see now here the most is 18. Right? 18 methods propose that 4 is the best number of clusters. But they do not completely agree with each other, right? There someone suggests 3, someone suggests 2, and you can see how many methods we have already tried, right? The 2, 1, 2, 1, so 6, 26 methods in all. They tried 26 methods in all. The majority of them, 18, propose 4 is the best number of clusters. We can also see the histogram over here. Right? So this is number of clusters, clusters, and this is how many indices or methods suggest that number. Right? So in this case, it's pretty clear. 4 seems to be the best. So this is a screenshot from that. So now software suggests 4 is the best, but is that indeed the case? We still cannot decide yet. We need to interpret the clusters we get, find out whether they make sense, whether they can help us make managerial decisions. Then we can make a decision as, this is the way to go. So be very careful about that. So basically, we are trying the following. If the classes we got is not very meaningful or does not help us with our managerial decision, we need to go back, rethink how many clusters we need. So the hierarchical class analysis gives an initial sense, but we need to use more precise method to help us after we decide how many clusters we want. In this case, 4 clusters, right? After we decide we want to try 4 clusters, we need to find a more precise way than hierarchical cluster analysis to get the membership, who belong to which segment. Because there's a problem with hierarchical cluster analysis. That is, so this hierarchical clusters does not, the hierarchical cluster analysis does not reassign a case. Right? You remember, as long as 2 and 9, they're combined, you can no longer separate. They're always considered as the same within the same group. But methods like a k-means cluster analysis allows a case or observation to be reassigned to other clusters in order to achieve more precise result. I give you this visual example. So this is how k-means cluster works, and how this PAM cluster analysis work as well. They are very similar methods, but this partitioning around the middles method is better, even better than k-means. We are going to talk about that later, but the concepts here are the same. So first, we will select some point. We have these inputs, right? We decide how many clusters we want. In this case, 5 clusters. Right? Now, in this example, not the example we talk about. Right? Here, in this visual example, we have 5 cluster centers. Then for each center, we assign case to the closest center. We use color to differentiate that. Right? So for this yellow one, for example, the closest is over here. The orange ones are over here. This light blue ones are over here. Right? Then after assign the case, we can update the case center. For example, look at the yellow one. Right? So you initially think the center is over here, but after assign this case, the center should clearly be somewhere over here, right? So we update the center, then reassign the case. After we change the center over here, we decided that these few observations, cases, right? They should be in the yellow group as well. So we reassign the case. And then we update the center, reassign the case. Update center, reassign the case. We repeat this step 4 and 5. You can see how this works, right? Gradually, when we reassign a case, the center no longer moves. We say the result converges. We repeat 4 and 5 until the result converges. Then we get this result. And you can see here the cases has the ability to be reassigned. That's why it is more precise than a hierarchical cluster analysis. But the problem with k-means analysis is that it is very sensitive to the initial centers. If you assign the initial centers differently, you will get different results. So basically, you run k-means analysis multiple times, you will have, for the same person, for the same person, you may have different cluster membership. That's totally possible. And we don't want that unstable feature. So we want to something else. But k-means analysis is old method. It's for some time it is replaced by other more precise, more stable method, such as PAM, this PAM method. But with big concept of big data, when we have more and more data, one benefit of k-means analysis people start to notice that is k-means analysis is very fast in terms of calculation. And when we have a lot of data, we don't really care now one person, whether this person belongs to segment A or B. We are more tolerant about the instability, but focus more on the speed, the ability to deal with a huge data set. So the k-means analysis is more and more used in the big data world. But with a small data set like ours, our new PDA, it's much better to use some stable method like this partitioning around the middles. So the difference between PAM and k-means is that k-means calculates the mathematical mean of the distance, but this PAM uses one of the observation as an anchor for a particular segment. As a result, this is much more stable. When you run it multiple times, the people should stay in their segment. The same. So the method is pretty simple. Another package to be used called cluster, and I use this two single lines. The first is the same as before, that is calculate the distance. That's is always the first step. We get to know the distance, then we use this distance to calculate this PAM method. Very simple. PAM, the distance. We want 4 clusters. So for both k-means and PAM, we need to tell the program how many clusters we want. It's not the initial exploration. We have to specify how many clusters. In this case, 4, and we put the result in this variable called PAM PDA group 4. It's done. It does not show anything, but it's done. Then we can look at this cluster result. So we have 4 clusters or 4 segments over here. Each segment have different size, and the distance within each segment, each cluster. We can also find the clustering over here. That is a cluster membership. So we can find there, for example, person 1 belongs to cluster 1, right? There's a bunch of person who belong to cluster 2. There's a person here belong to cluster 3, and a person who belong to cluster 4. Right? So this is how we get the result, and then we can use this code to get the result over here. So this is the result I have already got. The output is here. So from person 1 to 155, right? And the column B is a membership. Person 1 belongs to segment 1, 2, 3, 4. Now they belong to segment 2, so on and so forth. When we go back to the original worksheet, right? So this is original data. Now we can use a membership to calculate to find out how different people are in different segments. Right. So how did I do that? Right. You can, after the class, you can try it yourself. Right. And I can try a new segment, copy the data over here. Right. Member, and I just do this quickly. So I have class 1 to 4. To save some time, I just copy it here. Right. To class 1 to 4, I want to calculate all these variables, right? The mean of all these variables for each segment. Right? In Excel, we talk about this function before. It is average ifs, right? So you can find the equation over here. Right? So let me do that. Average ifs, right? This is the average range I want to study. I want this. I want to lock the rows because it's always from row 2 to row 156. But I do not lock the column because I want to be able to copy this cell to other columns to calculate for other variables. Criteria range, that is membership. I haven't copied the membership over here, but I plan to put them over here. This part I will lock it. And criteria is a membership right here. Here I want to lock the column. And done. You will find nothing because I haven't copied the membership yet. But now I copy all the membership. Copy them. Paste it over here. Now you can see that for the first variable, innovator, I calculate the mean for all people in class 1 is 4.64. I can do that for other classes as well. And I can copy this function to other variables so that I know this, for example, class 1, their average value for using message is 3.36, while class 2 is 4.12. That's exactly how what I get over here. So based on that, I can create this table. I basically copy all this information. I copy them, put them over here, paste. I only want to paste a value and a transpose because it used to be row. Now it's need to be column. So I transpose all of them. That's how I get this table. I also know the number of clusters. They're here, right? 42, 59, 41, 13. Right. So I put them over here. Right. 42, 59, how much? Oh, no. 41, 13. Right. You can calculate the percentage, the relative market share as well. Right? So these are all the people, and in one segment, segment 1 is about 27.1 people. So you can do that as well. Yeah, so here's the result. After I get this table, I can compare the mean of all these base variables across the 4 clusters and find out how different they are. This is, in this procedure. This is interpret and profile customers, clusters, right? To find out whether they make sense, whether they can help you with your marketing decisions. Right? So this is one thing I typically do. I highlight, right? I highlight the high values and the low values. In this case, with light yellow, I highlight the high values. Right? For example, innovator, among 4 clusters, this is the highest. I'll also use light orange to highlight the low numbers. It does not have to be the lowest, but no, enough for me to tell the difference. Right? So this is a subjective call. It's not the automatic coding. Right? So there's a question, are we only able to get the cluster via R? Not really. At least I know some Excel add-ins will enable you to do that. However, now that requires some other Excel add-ins. Now, I don't want to introduce too many Excel add-ins over here. Also may require some programming. Right? So, and for this more complicated analysis, R is much easier to use. That's why I only introduce R over here. Right? But if you're interested, you can Google it, and you can definitely find other add-ins to do class analysis in Excel. It's totally possible. Right? So I do that for all the base variables. At the same time, I also do that for all the descriptors, right? To find out who the customer are and how we can reach them. So I will let you take a look at all these clusters for 2 minutes. So you take a look, see now what each clusters are. What are their needs, right? In terms of difference, right? For example, cluster 1, what do they care? What they don't care? Cluster 2, 3, 4, what do they care? What they don't care, right? And at the same time, we look at the cluster now, who they are, right? How different are people in each segment? Can we use a difference to help us reach them and target them? Right. I will give you some time to look at this. All right, I get some sense. Now we have another question. Say, do we need to do R in the next quiz? No, we for both 2 quizzes and exam, we will not ask you to do R because I told you why, right? Because for R, I always give you code to run. So there's no point in a quiz or exam. You simply run the code I give you and just copy paste the result. There's no point for such an assessment. So no, we will not use R. So we come back to this difference in clusters, right? So what do you see here? Cluster 1, they care about their innovators compared to other groups. They're innovators. They're the high need for innovation. And you see all this email, website, multimedia, ergonomic. They're fancy features, right? They're fancy features in 2001. And we're not exactly sure whether that new device now from its look, whether it can actually implement that. Right? Nowadays, you can always check email on your smartphone and browsing website, now the multimedia. In 2001, think about the web speed, right? How can it's very, very fancy. If you can really do that, it's really, really fancy to do all this, right? And they are need for new technology. So you can get a sense what kind of people they are, right? They are those who are hungry for new technologies and those high-tech fans, right? Those kind of people. And who they are will help you understand their needs better, right? They're over half of them work in the computer industry, right? And 83% of them already have a computer, have a PDA. Right? They already have a PDA, but still they want for a PDA. They're willing to pay around $400 to get a new PDA, despite the fact that they already have a PDA. Right? So they are the ones that are eager for new technologies. Right? And they represent 27% of the market, which is not small. Right? Now let's look at the class of 4. Right? They're like the opposite. They care about all the usage, not the fancy features, but all the usage. Right? Class of 1 care about the fancy features, but for all the usage, the scores tend to be low. For class of 4, all the usage about information transfer, they are all high. Right? For the fancy stuff, they don't really care. They just want to get this work done. Right? So class of 4, they are people who really want to use this device. And that's why they have a very high willingness to pay for both the device and the monthly subscription fee. Right? So they are the one who really want to get work done. And who are they? Many of them, they have an exceptionally high proportion compared to other clusters in construction emergency. Right? And about 40% of them is also from the computers industry. And they are constantly away from office, right? So you know why they're eager for such kind of device to actually get the work done. So these two groups, they are willing to pay is higher than the rest of people. They're kind of more serious buyer, right? But buy it for different reasons. One is I really eager for new technology. The others I really want to get it to help my work done, right? So the other two segments, you can see that both of them are from sales and service professions, right? But their needs for the device is quite different. Cluster 2 aim for sales and personal information management, while Cluster 3 care more about remote access and monitor. Right? So likely they belong to different sales and service categories, right? And the Cluster 2, they perhaps now need to manage the relationship with people more. Right? While Cluster 3 are more likely to use a device to show other people something, right? On the screen. Right? That's why they are eager for a bigger screen. Right? So based on this, it helps us understand why they are different. Right? And how to reach them? You can see in the cluster, if we are aiming for cluster 1, right? Many of them read Business Weekly, PC Magazine, right? If you are aiming for cluster 4, right, you should perhaps look at Field and Stream and PC Magazine as well. You can see this overlap. Right? In the real world, there's never a clean cut. You try that best, but cleanness is not our priority. Right? Useful. Right? You can segment the people so it's useful for your managerial decision making. That's more important. So I put down some notes over here. Right? You can take a look a bit later. I talk about that. Talk about this already. Right. So all what we just look at, right, to link the cluster and the descriptors is just one variable by one variable. Right? And after we learn multiple regressions, we know that by combining different variables, you can increase your power, right? Because people, for example, have high income and high education may have similar membership with those people who are low income, but let's say is in the sales profession. I just make up. My point is that no, with different values in different variables, they may belong to the same segment. Right? And more complicated regression relationship can help you understand that better. But because the dependent variable is multiple membership, cluster membership, you need to use multinomial logistic regression to do that, and that is optional in this course. So using that, how are we going to make segmentation decisions, right? Back to our initial slides. Now, who shall we choose to sell this new PDA? Now we already know what segment exists. And the fourth segment seems to make a lot of sense, right? And we know who are the customers in each segment. Now we try to find, for example, which segment is most attractive, right? How do you define attractive, right? If it's just about profitability, right? Attractive can mean many things, right? If it's just profitability, you can calculate, right? So we have willing to pay over here. If the cost of the product is $200, then you can calculate for each product, for each piece you sell, how much profit you can make, right? For cluster 1, it's 194. For cluster 2, 3, now you can calculate that. Then you also know the relative size from that market, right? So by timing that the relative size to that profit, you can calculate a profitability index, right? And in this case, clearly segment 1 is highest because the profit is large, although not as high as cluster 4, but the segment size is also fair, right? So this is a simple calculation. You can say now from the potential profit perspective, cluster 1 seems to be most attractive. And now we know what happened later, right? Our smartphone basically is a later form of this new PDA, and it did thrive in cluster 1. Cluster 1 is normal consumers who eager for new technology, right? Nowadays, every 1 or 2 years, many of us buy a new smartphone, right? It's very profitable. It's actually very profitable. But the question here, go back to the question here. We only talk about the attractiveness yet, right? But we cannot miss a large part over here to your firm, Not only consumers are different, companies, firms, they are also different, right? We may know that for the entire market, this cluster 1 might be the most attractiveness, but can your firm do well in that segment? Is it the best segment for your particular firm? That's still a question mark. You cannot just say the segment 1 is overall most profitable, then I will choose that segment. Well, it's not necessarily profitable for your firm because your firm have strengths and weakness, your unique strengths and weakness. Your competitors, you need to think about your competitors. How are they doing? And if you do something, how are they going to react to your marketing activities? So in order to determine a segment to serve, we have a lot of criteria. And my course is not a marketing strategy course, so I'm not going to go through them one by one. I just want to point out Now there's some criteria you can use, and there's some tools like the GE matrix, portfolio matrix later to show you which one you might be interested. Then you can look at that segment closely to find out whether indeed you want to go into that segment or not. Right? So such criteria may include, now profitability is only one part, right? And then you need to be clear this, what we just calculated is overall profitability, right? How much profit you can make from the market is a different story. Right? Another very important thing in this case is a fit. Right? We talk about what each segment wants, right? But does your new product match their needs? Here, I think is the most important question over here. Right? So in order to target the segment 1, you need to give them new technology, right? Can your new BTA do well in multimedia? Can it receive email easily? Can it browse website with no problem? Does it have the latest technology? Is it ergonomic or not? If yes, now that is this product market fit. You may be able to do that. However, if you cannot do that, let's say, right? And then finally, you have to go to class of 4. Then what do you need to do? You need to get things done, right? You need to focus not on the fancy stuff, but on how you can receive information, send information, right? And moreover, if you want to target for one of the class of 2 or 3, right? Let's say you want to target the segment where this emergency profession is in. Then you need to design your product in a way that it needs to be robust, right? It needs to be robust, and it may need to be fire resistant, water resistant, dust resistant, right? Remember this construction profession. We need to take this device to this dusty construction site. So your device better be very robust, very tough, and dust-proof, waterproof. Right. So in order to target one segment, you need to have a good product market fit. Right. And there's other thing as well, like competition, right? So if you are a company like here want to go to class 1, right? But who is your competitor in class 1? Might be Apple, right? Can you compete with Apple? Apple is doing quite well in class 1, right? It's like a 500 gorilla in the room, right? Can you compete with Apple? If you can't, then it's perhaps better you find another segment that you can do well rather than go into this looks like a profitable segment. Right? So all these are considerations. This G portfolio matrix, right? It gives a very straightforward way of these potential strategies, potential marketers to target. So it classifies all these concerns into 2 ways. One is market attractiveness. The other is competitive strength. So this is from low to high, right? Unattractive, neutral, very attractive. The strength is from low strength, average strength, and high strength. In this matrix, right, the green zone will be good, right? So both attractiveness is high and your company strength is high, right? So that's where you want to go. You want to go to the upper right corner, right? The lower left part, that's not so good because either market is not so attractive or your strength is not there. So you can see now here, each circle is a segment. Right? And you can use the size of the circle to indicate the market size, right? So on this chart, which one is most appropriate for your firm to tap? Right? It's clearly this one. Right? This is closer to the upper right corner, and the market size is fairly big. Right? In this case, it's a very straightforward decision, but unfortunately, in the real world, you need to make a lot of trade-offs. Right? You need to, for example, if they only this red one and the yellow one are available to you, right? You need to kind of struggle which one is better, right? That's a lot of complication over here. So how to get the attractiveness scores and the competitive strength scores, right? So this is one way you can define these kind of questions. Ask some experts or have a board of expert members to rate this question for you, right? Then in the end, you can calculate a weighted score. Then you know for that particular segment, it should have attractive score of, you know, whether it's over here, attractive, whether it should be here or here or here, right? Then you can also calculate the competitive strength, whether it's low or medium or high. So I will not go into this. This is not under the scope of in this course. Right? But now this G portfolio matrix not only gives you a position of the segment, but at the same time, it also gives you some general suggestions of what you should do in each of the case. Right? You should take a look of this. Right? Maybe it will be useful for your own problem as well. So lastly, what is a good segmentation practice? I want to have our last 5 minutes on that. So in practice, we hope that segmentation are very easily defined, the clean cut. No, those are very clear. No, this is segment 1, this is segment 2, right? And each segment is well defined, reachable. That's what we hope. And many times we also hope that we do segment like one-off, and then we can use it forever. Right? That is our hope. But in reality, it's not like that. Most of the time, segments are hard to define. They're fuzzy. The board is fuzzy. You can see now segment A, B, C, they have a lot of overlaps. Right? And sometimes people may, over here, for example, may belong to segment B, may belong to segment C. Or sometimes my preference is closer to segment B, sometimes closer to segment C. People are complicated. You cannot define them clearly. Right? So our cleanly defined segment is not our primary goal, not our primary goal. Right? So and the customer, they evolve over time, right? And the people are dynamic. So sometimes they may here, sometimes they may be there. So a good segmentation study, it helps us. So these are the criteria, not cleanness, right? Our criteria is now first it should help us identify customer with different needs. We will find out how many different segments are there. Right? How do the needs differ across segments? We need to be able to tell what's the difference. Right? And it should enable us to separately target and reach them. If I know segments, how they're different, but I cannot clearly target them, I cannot reach them, then it's no use to us. Right? So this, you can see, will be different for different firms. Maybe such a segment is hard for me to target or reach, but for another firm, they may be able to do that. Right? So different firm may have different needs for segmentation as well. Right? And after the second criteria, right? The segment can be reached. It should enable us to find one or more attractive segments so that we can design our marketing program to actually work in that, focus in that segment. Right? And we should think of segmentation as an ongoing process. We need to keep on understanding the evolution of our segmentation, how they change, how their needs change, how new needs may emerge, how the segment will grow, right? So that's what we talk about, the long-term usage for segmentations. Right? It's not a one-off project, but ongoing process for us to do that. Right? So this is example about a good segmentation. Right? So if you know this person, Ernest Shackleton, right? This gentleman was the first one to explore Antarctica. So that this advertisement appeared on London newspapers in 1913. The advertisement reads very scary. Right? Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, right? Long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, right? Honor and recognition in case of success. Right? Is it a good targeting advertisement or not? It is, because it's not for everyone in London at that time, right? It's only folks on the segment who care about honor and recognition a lot, right? Who can stay with all this danger, always small wage, bitter cold, darkness, constant danger. They care those things little, but care about honor and recognition a lot. You can imagine that the segment of people is small, but these advertisements clearly focus on that small segment. Right? And it was successful. Right? About 1,000 people actually respond, and they form a team of 28 men. After 2 years, they were trapped in ice for two years, and finally rescued. Because they select only those people who don't care about the danger, only care about the honor and the recognition, the team worked quite well during this 2-year hopeless time, because these people are highly selective. And in the end, they were saved after 2 years, and the honor and the recognition indeed was their harvest after this very dangerous trip. So this is a good example of focusing on a very small segment and achieve success. It's a marketing, very successful marketing activity. So that's all for today. So after today, this week, we are going to discuss your research plan. I hope you revise your research plan after the discussion, and as you learn more tools in the course, now keep on updating your research plan. Next week, there's no lecture or tutorial. It's a flexibility week. And after that, week 7, we are going to talk about demand curve estimation, basically pricing strategy, and a revenue management system. Okay. Oh, it's close to 11. Sorry about the time, but that's all for today. I thank you, and see you next week.